What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the BizDad Podcast. Today, I am stoked to have another podcast with Erik Cabral. Erik, I was just on your podcast recently, just released recently, anyways. By the time this one gets released, it'll be a few weeks ago. But it was an absolutely awesome conversation, being on the other side of the microphone, or I guess the other side of the conversation. But really looking forward to returning the favor and throwing you into the hot seat this time around. But if you can, Erik, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your family, and then tell us about your business.
Yeah, brother. No, I appreciate you so much, man. I enjoyed our conversation too, man. So yeah, thanks for returning the favor. Yeah, it's always good having conversations with you, man. Good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so family of two, I love how you said, yeah, 2 kids and 1 wife. But yeah, little girls, 11 and 8. It's happening so fast, man. It's funny because when we moved into this neighborhood, Jane was pregnant, and so we didn't have any kids. We're like, we're gonna fill this house up, and all the old timers that moved into this neighborhood were like, oh, it's so precious. It goes so fast. You know, everybody just says that. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, meanwhile, like, snap your fingers. I'm like, what the heck? Like, almost teenagers. Yep. But yeah, brother, that honestly has changed me wholeheartedly from the inside out. Because when I realized I have girls, mainly even when the second one came, I was like, I got to be better. Like, I can't be this drinking, smoking, just ridiculous single guy that I used to be. And, dude, it led me to where I am now, just someone who loves Christ, somebody who loves business and wants to fuse all the things together. Because who was the perfect individual that walked this earth was Christ, man. And I was like, how can I just be more like that guy? Because I'm sure if I do that and try my best every day, then it's going to make it really hard for whoever tries to marry my girls. Because that was my goal, dude. I mean, it was like anybody who they choose to marry they're going to put me as the standard. And I was like, I don't want them to marry the version of me 10 years ago. Yeah. But this version, let's go. Like, I want to be that guy, So that's really where I'm at now as far as family. My wife and I married for 17 years now, bro. That's nuts. And she's on her faith walk, slowly but surely. She's watching, and I'm just trying to lead by example. But we were both raised Catholic, and
sorry to hear that. I mean,
I could relate to that. But the thing is, what I recognize in that, it gave me a foundation.
Yes,
and her as well. And I'm glad that it mainly did it for her parents. Like, let's get married in a church. Like, she's like, your parents and my parents are going to be so upset if we don't do all the things and we try to get married on the beach, all those things. Because I was living the secular life, bro. I was like, no. I'm like, that was it. But I was like, yeah, we got to do the church thing. But it took many years. Got married in my early 30s, and then didn't find my faith until 3-4 years ago. Okay. So yeah, I was in my late 40s by the time I was like, yes, let's go. Kingdom. But yeah, that's me. That's my personal life. And then the business, man, has been fused with what we're doing as far as helping clients, how we work within, like, internal communications, like prayer in the workplace was completely foreign. That is a new thing that they have embraced. Thank God that they're like, yeah, Rude, let's do it. We see your journey and we appreciate you. And a lot of them are Christians on the team. So I remember asking, I'm in C12, so it's another GoBundance type of organization. And they were like, just ask if anyone is uncomfortable with this, they can step out of the room, or in this case, virtual room. But no one did. No one ever was like, I'm tapping out here. I'll be back when you're done praying. So yeah, I love the fact that we fused the two and made God the CEO of the company. And
nice.
I feel like a passenger. I'm like, you just take the wheel. It's your will. Let's go.
Yeah.
So all of that has changed, but still what we do is launch YouTube channels, podcasts, really elevate people's brands, creating brand awareness with really authentic content, because people tend to create versions of themselves that are not true. Like, here's me, I'm successful, I got the money, I got the Lambo, I got all the things. But I'm like, no, I've done that already. I've published and produced and lifted up those brands. And in hindsight, I'm like, that wasn't fun. So now I'm like, I want to work with people that want to share their heart and who they truly are. So we've got, frameworks and all this type of stuff to build their personal brand and then launch their shows so that it's really coming from the heart and it will last because now it feels like a mission.
Welcome to the BizDad Podcast, where we dive into the melding of fathership and entrepreneurship with your host, the original BizDad himself, Adam Labar. Adam is a Christian, a former Air Force officer, a dad to 3 amazing kids, a coach, a real estate investor, and a business owner. On this podcast, he'll explore the unique journeys of amazing dads who are striving for greatness in both business and family. So whether you're a dad who is an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply a man striving to be a better dad, get ready as the BizDad brings you conversations to inspire, challenge, and equip you to be a better dad and entrepreneur. And now, here's Adam.
The mind shift that I'm sure that took for you is you said 3 or 4 years ago is when you found Christ. How recent was the change in the business then that happened?
The past year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it took some of your walk with God to kind of figure out what you wanted for your life, and then that kind of shifted your business world as well, or am I adding to that?
No. You're absolutely true. It's right for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the second person in like 2 weeks that I've heard about C12. So recently, we just had a men's event at my church, and one of the guys there, his name is Bob Sharp. He's in C12 apparently. So I just chatted with him on Sunday. He started a small group now that's going to have his first meeting here soon. But I was at the men's thing, and he was like, "Oh yeah," and then Bob back there is just starting a entrepreneur small group. So for those of you who like business stuff and want to talk about business and how to keep God at the center of your business, and I was like, who's this Bob Sharp guy? I need to go meet him because I had never met this guy at church. So I ran back and chatted with him. And it's funny because as you were talking, he sent me an email. And I was like, perfect timing.
Wow.
Because he brought up C12 on Sunday. And I was like, boy, I'd never heard of that. In my head, I kept calling it C20. But once you said C12, I remembered it was C12. But I was like, well, I'm going to have to check this out. So do you like C12? Has that been something that's been beneficial for you? Or?
Yeah, it hasn't been a year yet. So, I'm still getting my sea legs under me. But from my understanding and experience so far, yeah, it's great. It's very different than GoBundance. There's 100,000 members versus we don't gracious. Have that. So they're global. They've been around for 30 plus years. So it's very different. I'm walking in the room with guys who are doing $40 million deals with the government, and that's just one account. So their businesses are, very successful. But what's cool, dude, and inspiring is they're all kingdom minded. They're like, let's go, let's build for the kingdom. And it's so cool to see there's these big companies and corporations that we may be aware of that are being run by Christian CEOs, man. It's awesome. Yeah. So yeah. In terms of the networking aspect, it's very different than GoBundance. But I love it. I love it. The main reason I joined is because I wanted to understand, and I didn't know how to create my business as a ministry. And they were very helpful in sort of how, the formula and the methods to do, the introducing prayer, they gave me advice on how to do those things. But yeah, now that it's set, it's just a regular monthly call, they give you frameworks. We have full day monthly meetings, of 12. So that's why the 12, so there's always 12. And that's where they it's like micro tribes. I'm sorry, Go pods.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun though, and knowing that everybody's a Christian is super helpful, and and everyone's in different seasons of life and faith and with their walk,
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, I definitely
really cool.
Check it out.
What's going on, everybody? I wanted to jump in and take a second to tell you about the awesome team over at Wise VAs. Oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we can feel a bit overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up our valuable time, and it's time to reclaim that schedule, all right? It's time to stop doing some of those $10 an hour jobs and give them back to an elite group of talent that are there specifically to help you and help you stay in your zone of genius. So delegate those $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Reclaim what matters most in your life, which is your time. Get that amazing team of elite remote talent that is there to help support you and make sure that you are giving back the best to your company. So schedule a free strategy call at getwisevas.com/Adam. That is getwisevas.com/Adam. It is an amazing group, an amazing team. They do an awesome job with everything that they've got going on there. If you have some tasks on the side, whether it's administrative, whether it's editing, whether it's recording, whatever it is, they have got an assistant for you, someone who is going to be able to help you out and take some of those tasks off of your plate. I thank Wise VAs every day for helping me process all of these podcasts, helping me take care of a bunch of stuff in the background. And I definitely would recommend them over to you. So again, getwisevas.com/Adam. All right. Thanks a lot. Back to the show. Yeah, I will have to check it out now as person number 2 to bring it up to me in the last week or two.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind a little bit, as I often do, and kind of understand what it was like for you growing up. You already mentioned that you grew up Catholic, but what was your upbringing like, especially with your dad? How did you view your dad as you were growing up, and then how has that shifted over time? What was it just kind of for you and in your journey as a young Erik Cabral?
Yeah, so the Catholic thing was really just very early on in like K through 3rd grade when I lived in Yonkers, New York. My parents had just immigrated from the Philippines, in the late 60s. And that was just school, but it wasn't necessarily incorporated or infused in our lives, other than my mom having like this Jesus shrine in the corner with like candles and stuff. And she, would use, God as like a fear tactic. Don't do that. He's watching, that type of stuff. My dad never spoke about his faith or his beliefs. I would say by the way he led and carried his life, he was not a practicing Christian at all. And that was sort of, and has been of late, a challenge for me in our relationship, because he's one of the world, like chasing worldly desires, whether it's money, whether it's fame, whether it's, sex, whatever it is. It's things that the world lifts up and glorifies. And he led by example the things that I have now recognized as trappings, right? Those are the trappings of the enemy. Those are distractions from real life, which is, real life is beyond here. And I struggle with that because I have 2 little girls. And if we go into their house, my dad still, like a teenage boy, has posters of like women, or statues, like naked art statues. And it's kind of white noise to me because that's how I grew up. Like literally there would be a Playboy magazines strewn throughout the house as a young boy, dude. Like I'm 3, 4, 5. So that was my life. Like women were objects. And as having young girls, I realized I can't be that. I can't do that for them. Like they are not objects. Like there's so much inherent value within them. I don't want them to grow up the life that I did. So I can't have those conversations with him because he doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand that is all just ways to distract us from the truth and spending time, in prayer and in the Word. So that's always been a challenge. We've butted heads for sure. Recently, because of that, I'm like, hey, I'm raising these young Christian girls, and I want them to have safety, within my house. And if we go to visit you, and I see those things, that's your home, and I have to explain it to them. That's not on you. I don't fault him for that. I'm like, hey, you just be you. I'm not going to tell you how to do and live, but it just doesn't land. Those conversations he doesn't get. So it's a constant challenge. And I pray for him, and I ask anybody who's listening to pray for him because he's 81. And my grandfather lived till 90, I think. So my dad's like, I got 10 years in me. I'm like, damn, bro, you gotta elevate. You gotta evolve like this mindset and get away from those trappings, man. Because that's been his entire 80 years of life, dude. Like I'll still see like stuff on his phone. I'm like, that's so inappropriate, man. Like, why are you looking at that stuff? I want to be the guy, dude, where I'm like, when I have grandkids, I'm the sage old man. You know, I'm the one that's got all the wisdom and experience, and they all want to come to me for this advice. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the.
Are your parents together, or are they divorced? Yeah, still together.
They're together. Yeah, and my mom will whisper to me. She's like, "I believe in Jesus." You know, I'm like, "No, I know, Ma." I'm like, but you know, I'm like, "You're probably good." Well, you know, when the time comes, but I worry about Dad. Like, that's eternity, bro.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and it's one of those things that nobody knows the person's heart, right? God's the only one that knows somebody's heart, but the fruits that people have out there are oftentimes pretty evident of what's going on inside their heart. So, you know, it's one of those we have to constantly think about. And so for you growing up, what was that like for you growing up in an environment like that, right? Like you're seeing things, you know, it probably didn't mean much at that time, but as you grow older and you see things a little bit differently, I'm sure it changed. But like 5, 6, 7 years old, walking around with Playboy magazines hanging around in the house, and you know the posters on the wall and the conversations I'm sure that were there. What was that like for you, kind of growing up?
Oh, dude, I mean, it was my life, right? It was, you know, I'm gonna date myself. You know, Farrah Fawcett posters, or I remember Heather Thomas from The Fall Guy. Remember that TV show with Lee Majors?
I never watched
$6 Million Man?
So I remember Lee Majors, so I don't remember her.
Yeah. So she was like it was like all these beautiful women, and there was this certain standard of women, you know, whether it's blonde hair and blue eyes or whatever. I was always the brunette guy. I was like, I love the darker haired, you know, out of all the Charlie's Angels, the brunette, you know. So but you know, in my household and my mom as well, she wasn't like fighting this. Like she was of the same similar mindset. You know, women were objects, and I remember, well, you know, I want to get to this, but, you know, I stumbled upon his I'll call it corn, you know, prawn, whatever you want to call it. So I don't want you to get flagged here on YouTube. But I stumbled on his corn stash, his cornography stash, very early, bro. So the magazines were kind of like a precursor to that. 'Cause it wasn't graphic like that stuff was. And I remember how that, can you imagine being 6, 7, 8 years old at the time, like what that did to my brain?
Yeah, for sure.
And I remember at some point he either was addressing the magazines or the stash. And he was like, hey, you know, this is not reality. He's like, you're going to have a standard of women when you start to date that's unrealistic. And I was like, what are you talking about? So it wasn't until I reached puberty and I was like in the 6th, 7th grade, and I was always attracted to women who looked like they could be a centerfold on in a magazine. And those were the women that I dated, dude. Like I always, like everyone was imperfect. You know, like if they were too short or too, you know, whatever, their thumbs were too big, whatever it was, I was super picky because all I did was consume and create this version in my mind of like the perfect woman.
Yeah.
So it definitely affected my life. And I'm glad that it hasn't affected me to the degree. I mean, I have to do a lot of reprogramming, but what I've heard and what I've seen in the industries now, and I don't partake anymore. I fight that struggle and that temptation every day, but it's violent. Whereas when I was a kid, it was loving. Like what I saw was loving, and then I remember slowly but surely, whatever they create now, it's not right. It's real, like all of it's just terrible.
Yeah.
But I've heard that it's affecting the youth today in a way where they expect that. Like, so they're bringing the violent act of what they see to relationships, you know, whoever they're dating, whoever they're marrying. Yeah. And then the wives are like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, they don't know because that's what they
That's just
watched.
what they saw.
That's what they've learned. Yeah. So thank God that poison wasn't around at the time. Like everything was very, and my friends used to, dude, I remember, I had friends, you know, like we tried to be like those guys on Entourage or The Hangover, and they would laugh at me. They go, oh, Erik likes the corn that's loving, not the crazy stuff with midgets and trapezes and all the weird stuff. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's bizarre to me. Like, but anyway, that's that was sort of norm growing up. And my dad, knowing that I had exposure to that stuff, like he was fine with it.
Well, I will say that at least he let you know that that wasn't a standard, right? Like, let's not make that a standard. So if you're going to be exposed to the negative crap, at least it's there was some conversation about it. But it's one of those things that I think the average age right now for a child being exposed to that is like 10 or 11 years old. And because it's everywhere, right? We all have computers in our pockets running around. It's so easy to find. Things pop up. I mean, I'll be flipping through, and I won't do it now because, or I struggle to do it now. Is sometimes I still do. It's like I'll have some Facebook videos, and I'll flip through, and there've been some ads on Facebook videos with nudity on it, and I was like, what in the world? Like, cause, and I'm going back to, I would watch them with my kids flipping through Facebook videos. And the first time or two I saw that without the kids there, I told my wife, I said, whoa, like I had no idea that would ever pop up on a Facebook video. And then sure enough, it's in an ad right there. And I was like, holy gracious. So thankfully my kids haven't been there when it's happened, but it was one of those like, how's this even a thing? But it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's a problem. But unless you're talking to other Christians, most people don't see it as a problem. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how do you have conversations with non-Christians to say, hey, this actually is a problem. How do you, obviously your dad's a different story because that's your dad, but with other folks, like, if you were to try to talk to somebody who's listening to this right now and say, this is why it's a problem, what would you say?
It's a really good question, and I don't have an exact answer. Honestly, a lot of people that I talk to are Christians now, but or they're on their way to becoming. But the challenge is with this type of content, with all of this that's being created in the world, it's been happening for so long that when you become a believer, when you become a follower of Christ, you start to see the zeros and ones behind the devil's plans. So, for example, there's this show, and I don't mean to promote this, but it's called K-Pop Demon Hunter, and it's blowing up on Netflix, and all the kids are watching it, including Christians in our community. And what I've recognized, and I try to share with people, is this, that we have normalized this narrative of Gnostics, of people who believe and try to point to God as the dad that we need to defy. And like, he's wrong, he's mean, he's always giving us rules to follow, super annoying. Let me just go do my own thing because I am a God. Like, I am the one that has control. And if I control things, then, I'll take accountability, but maybe not. And I will just lead my life. And that has been the narrative throughout all these television shows, all the Walt Disney movies, especially lately. And that's what they do. They don't even hide it anymore. This is what I try to point out to people. I'm like, literally, K-pop Demon Hunter. And spoiler alert. So if you want to watch it, pause or forward the next 2 minutes. But apparently out of the three characters, the three main pop stars, they fight demons, but one of them is half demon. So this is what I'm talking about. Like now, there used to be narratives where they could kind of hide it within the narrative, but now they just put it out there. Like, oh, empathize with the villain. And look, she's lovable too. They do this with everything, like with Frozen, like always a character that's bad, but then they glorify, like Wicked, right? The guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz, God rest his soul, I'm sure would not have been cool with them picking up his IP and then saying, oh, let's make Elphaba, the bad witch, the Wicked Witch of the West or whatever, the good guy. And let's empathize with her and let's make a whole franchise around her being good. Like, that is nuts, dude. Like Venom, with Spider-Man and Venom, the anti-hero has been lifted up in everything, dude. All of it. And it's so obvious, especially since 2020. Like, they're like, hey, we're not even going to hide this anymore. We're going to put it in the Olympics. We're going to display this every single place, and you're not going to be able to hide from it. And we have, as a secular society, has embraced it as normal. It's all normal. But as you go down and see things through the Christian lens, you realize, oh, all along this has been happening. They're just not hiding it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we can say that everybody has their own truth, and because we look at things from a Christian lens, now we're, terrible bigots and all this different stuff because you don't believe in my truth. And it's like, well, there can't be your truth and my truth. That literally defies the word truth. Like there's the truth, right? There could be your experience and my experience, but it doesn't mean it's your truth and my truth. It just means that there are different experiences. And then, boy, don't get me started on the lived experience comments as well. But because we all have lived experiences, so it's okay, great. But yeah, I think the society as a whole, and I don't remember if I mentioned this when I was talking to you or not, but I was chatting with my wife about how shocked I was about how society has turned so quickly to such a terrible place. And I was like, I can't believe we're living in a place like this and all these things. And, and I mentioned on your podcast, I've arrested multiple people going after kid stuff, right? And I was like, man, I can't believe people like that live. I can't believe they're here. And then I look at now, I'm like, well, I can't believe people like produce that stuff. And I can't believe that. And then I had to sit back and go, how am I surprised? This has literally been going on since Bible times. Like Sodom and Gomorrah was a thing. And how can I expect it to be any different now as it was then? Because again, the world is the world, and people are people, and they're going to go down paths they shouldn't be going down. People are going to think things they shouldn't be thinking, see things they shouldn't be seeing. And my job as a dad, and your job as a dad, and leaders, is to make sure that we are protecting ours. And not turning back to look at the burning city. It's just no. We've got to focus on where we're going and teach our kids to keep their eyes where they're supposed to be. Sometimes that's literal, sometimes it's figurative, but it's just so difficult to work in a world that is going to harass you for having a belief in actual truth, capital T truth, and it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in as a dad. So how do you look at that now as a semi-new Christian, kind of looking at it? Okay, well, you had already had your kids for a little while, and now all of a sudden you're like, boy, when I started this journey, my kids were 5 and 8, and now they're 8 and 11. So the last 3 years they've seen a different version, and I've got to think about everything I'm doing differently now. How do you? If you were to juxtapose those two thought processes you had pre and post, how do you now have conversations differently, or how do you think about conversations differently with your kids?
So it's been fun to watch them watch me evolve, because they'll talk about it. They go, "Oh, Dad," well, the oldest one especially, like Veronica will say, and I put it in my book. She said, "Dad, I didn't have faith until you had faith." And I was like, whoa, that's deep. And then the younger one doesn't really remember any other version other than me now, but she has seen more and more Christ-centered, things throughout the house, starting to make its way, going to church every week. All those things have become part of their lives. And I remember when the Holy Spirit literally finally just entered into Natalie's life. When we were at church, she always was kicking and screaming and like, I don't want to go, I want to stay home with mommy. So, and she would just be bored and, moving around. One day she was attentive and hugging me the whole time. And we got in the car, dude, and she was sitting in the back. I'm about to get out of the car in the garage, but she puts her arms around my neck. And I thought she wanted to get on my back. So I start pulling her. She's like, no, wait, Dad, wait. And she's 7 at the time, 6 or 7. She says, Dad, I appreciate you so much. I'm like, why? Thank you. And she's like, for bringing us to church every week. I was like, what? I was like, Holy Spirit, let's go. I was like, that is a child saying this to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so cool. So yeah, I don't think she knows other than this version. But it's wild because it's been happening in real time, like secular music that I've loved throughout my entire life, slowly being replaced with worship music. Like Forrest Frank just blasting through the house, man.
Yeah.
The kids love him. Things like that where I
Did they
didn't
do the
realize.
dance too? Jumping around doing the dance for the
doing the dance. They're doing the dance. Exactly. I can't wait to take them to a concert. Like their first concert will most likely be a Forrest Frank concert. But like all that stuff, like little by little, they're just following my lead. And that's what the plan was. I'm like, I just need to change and lead. And that's going to happen over time. And it's been cool Now, my wife, on the other hand, was having, it was challenged throughout because I was not this version. Like she was like, okay, corporate guy to now business owner. Like I can go, okay, oh, you're waking up early, you're working out, you're eating right, you do all the things that you need to do to become a better business owner and to keep it going. But then from there, then it was like, that was going for years. Now it's like, boom, you're God-fearing, loving man. But then like, whoa, this is a big change now, because now it's really affecting the house. So it's been a blessing to watch her evolve too, little by little, and she doesn't see how God works around her. Yeah, and in her. It's so cool, dude, and it's separate stories. I don't want to share too much about her. She doesn't like when I talk about her on podcasts. But it's all good, man. It's all blessings, and it's a wonderful experience to see unfold before you. But yeah, it's just been a progress, dude. Just watching and just being so grateful that it's happening.
Yeah, and I think, I want to rewind a bit, just because I had said earlier, when you talked about both growing up Catholic, and I want to make sure that I jump on this a little bit, because I was like, sorry to hear that, and I say that for multiple reasons. Is if anybody who's listening to this may have heard that, and if you were Catholic and you're now out of the Catholic Church but still a Christian, you may go, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. But if you're sitting there as a Catholic, you may be thinking I'm judging, and I'm not, right? Because what the Catholic Church tends to do is there's so much difference, like pushing down from the Catholic Church on what everybody needs to do, as opposed to looking to the Bible to find out what we need to do. And a life that a person going to a Catholic church, growing up in Catholic church, has is so much different, because unless their parents are like strong in their Christian faith, going to Catholic church tends to be a check mark instead of like a relationship. And it tends to be, okay, am I hitting these things, instead of, okay, did I go to confession often enough? Which it still baffles my mind that confession is a thing, because I don't see it like I'm confession to God, yes, but I don't need somebody to talk to in between me and God. But again, that's when you're set up in that life and you actually see how a Christian walk should be, it gets very confusing. And you're like, I don't understand. Like, it's so difficult. So I would imagine for your wife, especially if she grew up actually like not like you, K through 3, but like going to Catholic church her whole life, and probably turned like, what a weird way to now see life being lived as a Christian.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up good points, and yeah, I'm not strong enough in my education and theology to debate or be an apologetic in terms of Catholicism versus Protestant and all the denominations. But I will say it may have been to my benefit that I only went K to 3. And then, went through the RCIA program last year and kind of come in as, and I recognize as Protestants are really good at, any denomination, evangelizing and speaking about the word and building a relationship with the Lord. So like I have a lot of those people around me, and a lot of people that I follow on YouTube that are probably not Catholic. So and one of my favorite deacons in our church, he's the best on the pulpit. He's for sure, like when he's up there and he's preaching, brother, like it's inspiring. And we became friends as a result. I came over to the side, I pulled him on the side. I was like, dude, I'd love for you, invite you to my house. Let's have dinner. And he was like, yeah, I used to be a Protestant preacher. He was like, don't tell the church, bro. But he left the Catholic Church for many years. And I'm like, oh, that's why he is so good up there, right? He's not like dry and boring. And, but so
you're in the Catholic Church now?
What's that?
Are you in the Catholic Church now?
Yeah. So
see, I'm harassing you, and you don't even know why I'm harassing you. See,
no, but I do.
So,
I see both sides of things, because I'm one of the ones that, yes, I'm going to church, but the church isn't it for me. Like the word, my relationship with the Lord.
Yes,
those are the things that are the most important to me. And I think you're pointing out something that's very, very important. And why my wife struggles is because she grew up, like you said, K through 12, and saw all the things going on.
Yeah.
I think even the controversial stuff that was really bad for the brand,
Yeah.
that we all know of, that's still, like it's little written things on the websites now. It's like, hey, we protect our children, like all those things. So she lived through those times. And I always have to remind her, and maybe this is coming from sort of a Protestant perspective. It's like, it's not about the church are people. There's people there, and you're pointing to them as flawed. And yes, we're all flawed. I mean, yes, if anyone, they shouldn't be as flawed and committing heinous crimes. But the thing is, it's probably harder for her. And I've opened up ideas like, hey, maybe you should look into these other churches. Like one of my good friends, my COO, is a Lutheran, and same thing with, it's close to Catholicism, but it doesn't have all the things that you were mentioning, whether because my wife does have issues with, going to some stranger. She's like, I don't want my kids going and confessing things to some strange dude, things like that. And I'm like, I'm new, so like I'm like, I love it all. Let's go. But I think I'm an outlier when it comes to what they call, or what we call, the CEOs. They're only there during Christmas and Easter only.
Christian and Easter only.
Exactly. I am not that. I'm this weird fusion because I'm so new, and I'm like that eager, shiny object guy. I'm like, I love it all.
Yeah. I'd love to, if you want, have offline conversations to chat about all that, because I look at, so both of my parents grew up at the Catholic Church, and my mom left the Catholic Church. We grew up and I think I talked about it on your podcast, but semi-Pentecostal / Protestant type stuff, and then mostly non-denominational after that. So we're kind of in the, if you were to have to pin something on me, it would probably be closer to Baptist, but not like the angry Southern Baptist, but like where everything is fire and brimstone. But if we were to have to pin something there, it'd be that. But it's mostly non-denominational, and it's one of those that the more I started the research, the more I was like, boy, I can't. I see why people in the Catholic Church get confused on certain things when I ask certain questions or when I go down certain things. And I was this close to going and getting my master's in theology, but I got selected to go be a pilot for the Air Force. Wow. And I had to cancel I had to stop my degree so I can go back into the Air Force to go be a pilot. But yeah, like, I love being able to dig into that stuff and learn about it and understand church history and I'm not an expert at it by any means, but I just enjoy having those conversations. So if you'd like, I'd love to chat with you a little bit offline and go. And that goes for anybody listening too. I love talking about that stuff. So
absolutely.
But so as you're now looking at the adjustment in your business, and you're like, boy, I want to bring internally Christ into my business and then help others. Let me ask aside, are you specifically targeting now, it sounded like, I think I heard you say, specifically targeting folks that are Christians to help build their brand? Is that now the new kind of focus?
It's somewhat of a focus. I mean, I still can and still serve people who are not, we have Jewish clients, we have, non-denominational clients. We have all sorts of clients. So I just want to help good people. Yes. And the thing is, what I've recognized in my conversations, especially on my pod and YouTube, is I love jamming with Christians. And especially during a time, I liken this to when I was becoming a real estate investor. I just wanted to talk to real estate investors because I was learning. Yeah. I just wanted to absorb as much information as I could. So you'll see on my YouTube channel, I'm talking to a ton of Christian business owners because I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you fuse the two? Now that I'm getting really comfortable and I'm already doing it, I don't feel the desire and need to do that more, but I do love jamming with Christian entrepreneurs because we all have the same mission, right? So it's like super easy to have these conversations, especially when the big piece of our business, the framework in simple terms, is like, okay, understand who you are and your core values. Like if there's a Venn diagram, and then who do you serve, right? And we call it in marketing your avatar. And the final piece and circle is, what is your purpose? What's your mission? So a lot of the time in my life prior to my faith, it's money. It's family, it's money, it's fitness, things like that. Never any conversation about a higher purpose, like something way bigger than all of us. And if they do, they'd be like, in the universe. That's how I was for sure for a long time, and not wanting to offend anybody in this PC world, God, or that, whatever you want to call it. No, I'm like very clear now. So like, I don't want to offend, but if I offend potential prospects, and I'm coming in and I'm like, okay, you call it the universe, I call it, my Lord and Savior, Jesus.
Yeah.
So things like that. So it's just easier when we're having the conversations. We run cohorts, and there was a time where there was 5 or 6 of us, and I think 4 out of the 5 were Christians, and 1 wasn't. So it just made it a little bit more challenging when everybody was talking. I always kind of felt bad. I'm like, oh, and then she did share why it's not a challenge. She's not offended, but she's like, if we weren't jamming on that all the time, I'm sure, and we were all very self-conscious. We were like, oh man, what if we could just jam on that and not be worried and concerned that we're alienating or making someone feel bad or left out? So that's hopefully answering your question.
Well, yeah, but what if when you're jamming out on that, that's the thing that person needed to be comfortable with hearing it and go, oh wow. So recently, I sat down with a friend of mine. Their oldest son was thinking about buying a business, and they were like, dude, I've never done this. I don't know. And they're Christians, but their son is not. So I sat down and I was like, hey, let's chat about this. Let's chat about that. Like this book I'd listen to, this book I'd do this, blah, blah. And we just started going off like, this is my plan for buying businesses. This is how I would do these things. And then, afterwards, he sent a message to his mom, like, is that guy a Christian like you guys? And she was like, yeah, he is. And he was like, wow, yeah, he's pretty cool. And first off, it's been a long time since I've been told I'm cool. So I'm going to take that as a pretty great thing. Anyways, but it was one of those that we didn't talk about being a Christian at all. I guess maybe his parents and I did. But it just took that for him to kind of go, oh, like I can view Christianity differently now than I did before. So when you're having those conversations and you're like, hey, there's 4 people here having this conversation, that person may be like, wow, I didn't realize that I could run business and be a Christian at the same time because I thought like business was just about this cutthroat blah, 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 or whatever. So they may hear it just in the right time. So that's where I think that, to encourage you, and I don't think you need encouragement. It sounds like you're already on the right track, but have the conversations, keep it open, keep it flowing. If somebody wants to talk about that more, go for it. Like, again, you are the 5 people you're around most. So maybe that person just needed to be around 4 other people that were jamming like that,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Never know. You never know what's going to be the thing that strikes somebody's ear at the right time to be able to change their brain. Which brings me to, what was the thing at what point in your life 3 years ago when you decided you were going to be a Christian? What was the thing that struck your ear, that struck your brain, that you said, boy, I should actually be a Christian? Like, this is great. Tell me about what that was like for you.
Yeah, we're gonna get into my testimony here, if you don't mind. So basically, I think the Lord was working on my heart all through my life, and I didn't recognize those things until recently. But definitely when I became a business owner, little by little, just becoming a good person, and I started to recognize. I was starting to let go of all these really bad traits and characteristics I had developed in my previous, corporate life, and running the business, led me to the point where I'm blessed, to have these opportunities to speak on stages. And there was one event, I think it was in Miami, where I was getting off the stage, and I guess I did a good job because there was a line of people. And I remember during this point, a voice that popped in my head, bro. And it was like, you're the effing man. And I was like, I remembered that. And when I went home, and typically, you know how it is when you come from an event and it's just all that information, you just feel so drained. Like, I need to recharge. So I just, no emails, no work. And I just spent my time, what I called, it was just meditating. It was like yoga, meditation, do all the things. I was praying. I started praying, and I realized I was like, I don't like that feeling that I'm the effing man, and that I'm building this all for my ego. And then I realized, oh man, I think I'm also doing this in my business. Like, I'm building for other people's egos. They're paying me to lift up their egos because they want fame and fortune. And I was like, what do I do? Like, do I shut the business down? What do I do? Because like, this is what we specialize in. And then that's when I started to spend time and looking for answers, dude. Like, then I went to church. I was like I was literally kneeling and like in tears. Like, what do I do, God? Like, I don't know what I should do with my life and business now because I don't feel this is right. And then that's when, not all in one moment, but over time, it's like, give it to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, if I do that, and then it was like this book that I was sitting on called Be Your Brand. For 3 years, I was promoting it, putting it on websites, and I wrote it, and then I went back to it. I was like, this sucks. This is all about me, right? And I didn't like it. So I sat on it, never knowing what to do with it. And then it was like, wait a minute, be your brand to glorify God. Oh my gosh, that's Matthew 5:16. Like all this stuff started to come into my head. He literally started speaking to me through scripture, bro. And then that's when I had saw and heard verification that he speaks through his word. Like he speaks through scripture. And if I'm getting dropped in, bloop, like downloads of scripture, and I don't read the Bible, I don't know the Bible. And I'm literally like looking up, what does that mean? And I'm going in, I'm like, oh, I'm like, he's speaking to me. I remember, dude, walking out of this office and in tears to my wife. I'm like, he's talking to me. She's like, what are you talking about? You're losing your mind, bro. I'm like, no, he's dropping scripture in my head. And I didn't know what this stuff means. And now I do. And it all connects. And so, yeah, it was like instances of that like happening several times over the course of a year. I was basically on a sabbatical for 2024 while Kaylee ran the business. And I was just in prayer, dude. All the time. Like I wish I had done what you like beard, long hair, like it would have been visible that I was like in this spiritual journey as he was speaking and influencing my life and business, dude. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's and for anybody listening, that's not always the case. Where like it's not like something just gets dropped in your head. Like sometimes it's a little crumb here or there. That's awesome that it was kind of a smack in your face, though. You know, I often tell people, like, if God's telling me no, I really need him to slam the door hard, like break my nose with the door, so I know not to go that route because I'm so hard-headed and I'll just keep chasing something. But to receive those inbound messages is awesome. The way that that happened, that's really cool.
Yeah. You can't think you're going crazy if and when that starts to happen.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, because you're like, wait a minute, and it's not always just an audible thing going on in your head, but you know, because oftentimes God sounds like you.
Yes.
You know, you're just talking in your head, like here's this, but you're like, but not something I've ever thought about before. That's weird, you know, and then it's like, where did that come from? And then off you go, you know. So, how are you planning to now? You know, you're bringing your kids to church and you're kind of showing them what that looks like. Do you talk to your kids about your business as well? So, like, do they understand kind of what you do?
Heck yeah. Oh, they love it, dude.
Really cool.
Yeah. They're funny because, you know, they're kids, you know, so I remember being a kid in school and be like, my dad could beat up your dad, you know, like stuff like that.
Of course.
That version for girls is like, my dad's on YouTube, you know, like my dad's famous, you know, and I'm like, you know, to them, I'm famous just because like they see it's like television to them. But I did, dude, so blessed to have this opportunity because I always like through GoBundance, you know, I was just starting my business. I think I was like in year 2 when I joined GoBundance. But seeing all these, you know, super successful dads, you know, Osborne and Hybin and all these guys and bringing their kids to the events and other Go dads bringing their kids. And I was like, man, someday I would love to do that. But my kids were young. Yeah. So I'll never forget this, dude. We were right after church, and this was a time when my wife came. So this was another blessing. She's there. I think it was Father's Day, but like we were having coffee, the 4 of us, and the girls. Well, they were drinking chocolate milk or whatever, and my wife was like, you know, I just don't know this homeschooling because we homeschool, you know. And my wife's like, man, it's just so challenging. You know, it's so hard. God bless all these women who are like taking the charge and leading for this because it's not easy for sure. But she was just, you know, sharing and venting a bit. And she was like, I just wish they were around someone else more than me. And I was like, I'm going to Milwaukee. I'm going to speak at an event in Milwaukee. I'd love to take Veronica with me. And she's like, really? So Veronica spent a week with me, dude, around Christians, like 85 awesome. Christian business owners, saw me on stage, and then made such an impact, being one of the only kids there. They asked her to speak on stage at the end of the event, dude. So I was like, super cool. Let's go. So yeah, it was so cool to bring her to finally be able to experience that. I'm like, and then now the little ones, like, I want to go too. I want to do. So little by little, they'll start coming with me, especially if I speak at a Christian event, and they'll get to see others and see me and see the Lord just working in all of us. It's wild, dude, to watch, and they're super curious about what I do. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I started dragging the kids along to as many events as I could. Like, so when I left the military, I was traveling all the time, and I was like, I can't imagine like being gone this much all the time anymore. Like, I just can't do it. So then when I went to the business stuff and I go to abundance events and everything, I'm like, I don't like being here without my family. I wish they were here. And so then I started bringing them to all the FamBundance events. And then now I bring them to like my ADPI conferences, like when we have ADPI Con, and they get to see me on stage. They get to see other people on stage, get to see me in the background working, get to do all this stuff. And the experience they have, we get to do homeschool on the drive there. Like we literally, last year, our conference was in Denver, the ADPI conference. So we drove from Florida to Denver. And I was like, let's go. Like, so we got to do homeschool on the way, have great conversations, see half of the country, go see cool different things, then get there, get to see how the event goes on, get to see all the things. My wife was there, so she got to go and play with the kids when I was doing work. It's just so cool to watch them get exposed to things that I would have never been exposed to. And I'm assuming you would have never been exposed to as a kid. And it's so cool to watch that. It's one of the reasons I love this podcast is people can hear things like that and go, man, maybe I should start bringing my kids to those events. Maybe I should start bringing my kids to these places. Like, that's really cool. Because what an experience they get to have and see things, so.
Yeah. And I think it's, some wonderful side effect could potentially happen in them picking up the mantle. That's legacy for sure. Not forcing, but hopefully inspiring them. And this event that I was at, Tom Ziglar was also speaking there, so we got to hang out with him. And he's the son of the legendary Zig Ziglar. And he was talking to Veronica, and she has no idea like who this guy is, but he's dropping all this knowledge and advice for her as a child. He's like, "Hey, what do you love doing?" And she's like, "I love writing." And he's like, "When are you going to write a book?" And she's like, "No, I write books," but no, they're little like she's scratching on 8.5 by 11. But she's like, "No, your dad published a book. He can help you publish a book." And he's like, "Next time I see you, he's like, I want that book." And he's like, "And you know what it's going to be about?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "How kids can start businesses," because she has a business.
Nice.
And like what? So it was like so cool to be able to like see him as the second generation picking up the mantle from Zig. And then still speaking on stages, inspiring kids, doing all the things. I'm like, oh man. So like, that's what I would hope for, is that our kids would start to do the things we're doing, or their version of it. It's cool. Yeah.
I hear things like that and I think to myself, how can I better impact the other kids that I run across as well? And like try to help them pick up the mantle and be like a Ziglar and say, hey, like, boy, this, like, what are you going to do next? And like inspire them and speak that into my kids too. Like, sometimes our own kids don't listen to us like they'd listen to somebody else. So it's one of those like, it's so much easier to hear from another kid. But what sort of business does your daughter have?
So she has a couple. There's these things called perler beads. So they're little plastic beads that you put on a grid and then you fuse them together. And then you put a hot iron on it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then it creates whatever, and it looks like pixels, So you can do characters like Spider-Man or Minecraft, whatever it is. And she would sell those at marketplaces. So she'll have a whole table full, make them into keychains, into coasters, all these things. So kids buy that. She's literally got like hundreds, if not, I think she's got over $1,000 from that. And
nice.
She just sews things now. She's like, I'm going to make little scrunchies and sell to my school and all these little things. She always has ideas where she just sells products. She creates stuff and sells them. Yeah. So she's like, when can you create an Etsy thing for me? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get that. I'll get to that. Yeah. She wants to be on Etsy, but I think you have to be a certain age. But anyway, yeah, selling stuff to kids.
Well, now I'm going to have to challenge you. When are you going to, have the adult Etsy for her to sell the stuff on through your name? See, there we go.
Yeah,
or through your wife's name.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll probably look better. The stuff she's selling probably look better through your wife's name. Could be wrong.
Yeah, you're
Could
probably
be wrong,
right.
But
yeah, and I'll help to brand it. I'll create a little logo for it or something. But yeah,
and that's a great homeschool project too. Is stuff like that. Like that's one of the great things about homeschool is the kids can learn all sorts of stuff in whatever you want them to learn. So
yeah. So I'll pick up the challenge. Yeah, I'll do it before the end of the year. How's that?
There you go. There you go. A couple months to go. Yeah, good stuff. So where do you see yourself moving now with the business? How are you trying to grow? Where are you trying to move your business towards?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that. I had this illusion when it's funny, you've heard of the gap, right? I think, so like
the gap and the gain type of gap or the gap, store, The Gap.
No, The Gap. Who wrote the book? I'm having a brain fart. Not The Gap and the Gain, but it talks about like as it's going up the curve, this mountain, and then there's a peak, and then there's this rapid descent.
Yeah.
Where a lot of us entrepreneurs, the way up is the shiny object syndrome. I opened 4 businesses when I left corporate. I was so excited, and then you don't have the knowledge. You don't know what you don't know, right? So you're very eager, you're very brave, and you have a lot of chutzpah, to say, so to speak. And then reality starts to set in. So, and then that was the peak for me. Go button is probably year 2, and then everything just go whoop, and so there's this valley where most entrepreneurs quit, or they think I need another idea, and then they start another business and then start the ascent again. Whereas like we're finally coming out of that. Like I made it. We didn't fold the business. I didn't find another thing to chase. I'm focused. So now I let go of all my other companies. I had an events company, I had a real estate company, I had a coaching company. Like it's just on air brands. Let's go. But back then, dude, I thought like I'm gonna sell this company to VaynerMedia. That was my goal. And I got so close, dude, like not close to where we were negotiating, but I'm in the Vayner universe. Like they call me if they need podcasting ideas or coaching on speaking and stuff. So I managed to work my way in, but the goal was to sell to a Vayner type of company or maybe bigger pockets on air brands. Here it is, 10 million. And I remember being on Joe Fairless. I didn't even deserve being on Joe Fairless's podcast at the time. I had like 1 property, but meanwhile he had me on. And I'm like, I'm going to sell my company. I'm building an asset, bro. And like, I think back how cringy that was because like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So then now it's like less about selling the company. And the goal is to just serve 50 to 100 entrepreneurs at the highest level that we can and just love on them, love on their families, be very intentional with knowing who they are and what their business is and just being so close to them that that's all we need, dude. We just need 50, 100 clients. And we will be gold, like at least until I reassess what I want to do. But the company will be running itself, and we'll just be doing that, man. Just creating what and God rest his soul, John Ruhlin. He had such a beautiful model that was, I think, very Christian fused in giftology, and it was just like, I just want to give my clients more than they're asking for in value, in gifts, and just sending them. And like his staff, they would, as soon as they joined his staff, he would send them a new mattress. He would send them like monthly cleaning people to come and like clean their house, chefs, things like he had such a great culture and mindset, like how to serve his own like team. And then next level, if you've received Cutco knives or you received all that stuff, like that's giftology. Like people have either ripped it off or they're using his company to gift people. I started getting showered with gifts at some point during that peak. And I realized, they're like, yeah, dude, hey, behind the curtain, I'm just hired John Ruhlin, in giftology. He's the one sending you all these gifts. I'm like, what? So that's the type of like framework I want to adopt when we get to that point in business where it's just like our clients just get showered with personal gifts, not typical Christmas things, something that's unique to you. And then do that for our staff as well. And if that's the type of company that we're running in the next 2 to 5 years, dude, I'd be so happy.
That sounds awesome. How do you, you received all those that made you feel good, right? Did it point you in a certain direction when you received them? Or you look at, I guess the actual question I'm asking is the types of gifts you're planning to give, to peel back a little bit, are what is the intention behind the gifts other than to make somebody feel good about receiving something?
It's a good question. I haven't really thought too much other than I've experienced that. And I'll say that the zeros and ones behind it is really creating loyalty. Because I know that whenever I put a lot of thought into, and this goes back to like dating, when I was dating, I would get unique gifts, even for friends that like, man, you really thought about me. Like you really didn't just like go out and pick some generic thing. Like you listened to me and you heard something I said that was random and you stored that at the right until the right time, and then you looked for this thing specifically for me. So like I love that aspect of giving those type of gifts, and I've always been that type of person to look for something that isn't expected. And that joy, that surprise, that feeling that people get when they're like, oh man, you really listen, you really love, you really have that attention to detail. So it makes them feel worthy. I think I'm going deep, right? It makes me feel worthy. I had a big issue that I finally have healed from, and not feeling worthy. So that's probably why I used to love those gifts. Or anytime like some go bro would be like, yo, I love you, man. I think text me, yo, I love you, bro. And I would store a screenshot and put it into an album. And I'm like, they love me, and I think people just want that, right? People appreciate being just loved on and paid attention to.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's the part of the reason I asked too is like if we're targeting especially Christ-centered businesses or people, maybe that gift is going to look a little bit different than another gift, right? Because it's what are we trying to say with the gifts that we're giving as well? Making it God-centered instead of me-centered.
For sure. Example of a gift that I guess we could potentially do. So I'm giving it away here. The idea. I have my brother-in-law is starting. He just retired for the military, for the Marines, and he's starting a woodworking business. So he's creating unique signs and tables and chairs and things for people. And I'm like, oh man, you go. It's like wood. Jesus is woodwork. Let's go. So he's doing all that stuff. He's stepping into his faith as well. And I was like, hey, dude, can you make a sign for my COO? I want a big wood sign that says, the Green family, and then has scripture. And I designed it, created it with him, his help. And then, dude, she wasn't in tears. I'm glad that it didn't get awkward. But when I gave it to her, she was like, dude, this is a family heirloom. Like, I'm going to pass this to my kids. And I'm like, and then I started to see it getting weathered. I started to see it aging, over 50, 60, 100 years. And they just keep passing it to the next family. I was like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. Like, I just thought like, hey, this would be a wonderful gift that has some meaning behind it, you know? So yeah, that's thank you for that. Like, cause then I'm like, oh, maybe depending on who our clients are.
Of course.
Yeah. Like an heirloom.
But no, I loved what you just said. And that's why I thought about it that way, is like listening to what you're talking about and hearing what you're saying. And it's like, boy, how, like, not only can we make them feel good, right? Because it always feels good to receive something. But also feel good with an impact behind it as well. And that's exactly what you did. That's great.
Front Row Dads, Roman sent, when I joined, these silver spoons, and they all had unique. He must have somebody on his team shop at like like all these antique shops, because they were all different types of spoons, and on each spoon had my name, my wife's name, and my kids' names. Now It wasn't framed in a box like a shadow box or something, but that's on me. But I thought that was a wonderful gift too. Like things that speak to your family and your heart, and you're challenging me to come up with creative stuff. But yeah, we're not there yet. Eventually,
no, of course, yeah. That's just part of the ideas, and that's why I asked where you're planning to go, because it gives us an opportunity to kind of riff a little bit on like your thoughts and where you want to go and how you want to grow, and I love that, and I'm sure somebody listening to this is getting some ideas on what they want to do. As I'm getting ready to close on my business, I'm like, oh, what can I do for my employees, and what can I do for the new team, and where we're going? It's fun to kind of go down this route and hear how other people are working inside of their business. So. What you said, your oldest already has a couple of businesses doing some things, and you bring them along on some different conferences and whatnot. So like, how much are they involved at all, or do they understand like the back end of your business at all? How you kind of operate in business? Do you have any of those types of discussions with them?
Not really, not yet. I mean, other than them, like your kids, they'll come running in here from time to time and see me in the middle of a meeting, or hear those conversations. I remember when I used to visit my mom, she was like the head manager to some glass company. She was, one of the big ones and she would bring me in. It wasn't like bring your kid to work day. It was just bring me in because I guess I didn't have a babysitter. But I think what I was doing is absorbing her work ethic, and how she interacted with people and her staff and her boss. So I think that even though we're working from home, seeing that hustle, number one, is like dad's working. He's loving what he does. Like they associate work with not something that should be just a chore and an obligation, but something that they can pursue, something that you truly love or have a passion for. So I think they see that, and I'm hoping they see that, but I haven't had the conversations about like the back end stuff. They see me, on calls with Kaylee and my team and things like that. But no. At some point, I'd love to incorporate them, like even maybe give an internship, to my oldest. Like, hey, you got to rock this out. Like, you got to upload these videos to YouTube. Something like that.
Yeah. My son wants to work in the new business, the escape room that we're closing on soon. He's like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm like, let's do it. Because and it's something that I'm sure you've heard before, but more is caught than taught, right? So what you were just describing is your daughter seeing you and hearing you, and they're going to learn so much from that, just like you did from your mom. So more is caught than taught. So let them just kind of be around it and hear it and feel it. And there are sometimes I get done with a conversation and Adam, my oldest, will come up to me. He's like, Dad, you sounded kind of angry on that call. And it's like, no, I have a different intensity when I'm on certain calls than I do on others. And this particular call was about X, Y, or Z things. So then I got to explain, like, well, you picked up on a different level of emotion in my voice and a different level of understanding, but maybe didn't hear what was going on in these headphones. You only heard my side. So it was like, but sometimes intensity of excitement sounds like anger. And it's like, no, not at all. There was no frustration at all. Like we were just pounding out all of these ideas and these thoughts and all these things. And then he gets to hear me on a podcast, and then he gets to hear me, chatting on, when we were doing that cross country road trip, listening to my phone calls on there, and like, boy, like that person said X, Y, or Z. What did that actually mean? And it's like, oh, well, this is what it actually means from a business sense or from, whatever. And it's so much fun to just see the questions that come out. And the fact that your daughter's already doing some business stuff makes it, okay, well, how do you apply that to your business? What are your thoughts on what that means for you running your stuff? And then it just turns into more and more conversations. And you know how much we hate having conversations with our kids. So, sarcasm, of course.
Yeah.
So how about your wife? So she does the homeschool, but is she involved at all in the business side of the house or no?
No. We tried to rope her in a couple times, but it's just, it's always a challenge. I remember, she and I worked at work. That's how we met. We met at work. And there was nothing scandalous in terms of like I was her boss or anything. We were in the same department. It was 150 people. I was one of the designers. She was an editor. So every once in a while, we would go on the same account, and she would edit something that I designed. And as a designer, I don't pay attention, with typos, all the things. And she would come and be like, hey, no, it needs to say this way. And then we would argue. And I go, why? And I don't know. Meanwhile, I'm questioning her and her expertise. She's not telling me how to design something. But I remember when I would work from home, and she would be on my account. It was just always like just butting heads, and I just remember that experience. And figured that would probably happen if she were in on-air brands. So no, we've never really explored it. She kind of knows that dynamic. We kind of keep it separate. Every once in a while, like when I was writing my book, she for sure, same thing. Like she went through the manuscripts, like I don't get it. What is this? It's like this sucks. It's like, so at least I get like real feedback from her. But she's like, but I'm not the audience for this. I get it. But I was like, I need you to go comb through and make sure like things are grammatically correct and, spelled. And so there are times where I do lean on her expertise in terms of editing and writing. But no real plans to get her into the business. She has zero interest in jumping in and helping.
Yeah, there's in most cases, the guys I talk to, that's the same thing they say is their wife is not at all interested. Some of them work together, some of them don't. My wife is interested a little bit now that she's retired, so we'll see kind of how that goes as things adjust. But I love I love the fact that you guys still do the homeschool and you're building your relationship together and all that. So what does that look like outside of business between you and your wife? How are you building your guys' relationship together or moving forward? Very difficult when you have two young kids, but the way I tell my kids, they know where they're at, and my wife and I talk about it. I was like, it's my God, my wife, my kids, then everything else, business and everything after that. So how are you and your wife building your relationship to make sure that it stays strong throughout the years as you're raising kids and running business?
Yeah. I gave a shout out already to Front Row, but they really helped me at a time when I didn't have a framework for that. And Jim Shields, 18 Summers and the family board meeting, those were integral to creating some cadence, for our kids to have unique and special time with us. But that, being said, I started to also realize that time has to be carved out for just us. And we have those conversations with the kids, and they still don't get it. We're like, Mommy, I think the oldest one's kind of getting it now. Like, yeah, you guys need, because the little one still likes to co-sleep with us from time to time. So we're like, hey, you need to sleep in another bed. Mommy and Daddy need to be alone. And like, but why? And Veronica would be like, just get in here. Like, just leave them alone. And then like, same thing with date nights, where we there are seasons where we're like getting some level of consistency, but we're in a season now where like it's just life and business and homeschooling all kind of get compartmentalized. And I'm usually the one that's like, no, hey, it's time. Like it's been 2 months, we got to go out. We got to just be us. Or the kids are getting old enough now where we can go to the local winery and she and I will just sit and like, hey girls, you want to go run off and do your own thing? But I always want to ensure that we have time carved out every day where it's just me and her having a conversation, a long conversation, not just like 10, 20 minutes of like her venting, because she always needs to kind of like release.
Of course.
But then like just true deep conversation, dude. And it's so funny because she doesn't give herself enough credit, but she's like one of the smartest people I know. And I love having conversations with her because I can go down conspiracy rabbit holes with her, or I could talk about, we try not to talk too much about faith because then we start butting heads. Yeah. But there's so many different type of topics, and she's always ahead of the curve, dude. Like, with nutrition, I didn't understand that stuff, with off gassing, like all this weird stuff to me. Then I eventually catch up because some dude says it on a podcast. I'm like, hey, oh, you've been telling me to do that and all this time. And she's like, I told you that 3-4 years ago. So that's when it's always like, oh, you're so way smarter than I am. Like, but, that's so key, right? Because if we start to lose those conversations and respect for each other and building those relatable sort of moments for us, when the kids are gone, man, I don't want to be that couple that just looks at each other on the porch with the cup of coffee and like, who are you? Like, why did I marry you again? It's like just conversation and taking walks. That's where I've been really intentional.
Nice. Yeah, because after 17 years of marriage and 2 kids, that's one of those things is you kind of have to be aware, like, hey, there are so many divorces that happen at 60 years old because the kids are gone and they don't know each other anymore. So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we not lose each other emotionally or physically in that process? So having those deep conversations, staying connected with each other. And, it's funny you mentioned you'd hear some other guy say something that it reminded you of what your wife told you, months ago. And it's one of those, it's similar to our kids in some ways. Like our kids hear things differently when it comes from somebody else. We hear things differently when it comes from not our spouse. So being able to take what your spouse says and go, okay, now what does she actually mean? Let me go out and do some research. Let me go out and see some things. And then they said it in a way that I heard it differently because it's not coming from my wife's mouth, right? It's just like and it's not an insult to our spouses at all. It's just like after all of these years, we hear things differently coming from somebody else, and that's just the way it goes. Just like they're going to hear things differently. So that's why I'm always like, oh, try this book or try this thing or try this whatever. You listen to this podcast because you're going to hear it differently from somebody else than you are from me. So, and then we get to sit back and say, okay, what did you think about that thing I sent you? And then we can both go back and forth with some centered thing that is not, let's talk about what I said. Let's talk about what they said. What are your thoughts on there? Instead of just, oh no, listen to me talk about this thing. It's no, let's talk about what that was. So that's fun that way as well. So maybe on the the faith side of the house, you can have somebody told me we should listen to blah blah blah, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then the two of you guys can chat about what that person said in the video. So no, she's not fighting with you about anything necessarily. You guys just get to talk about something else, and the projection goes somewhere else.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So as you're you mentioned date night sometimes been like over, hey, it's been a couple months, we should probably do this. Like, do you have an intentionality behind, hey, we like at least once a month we go on a date, or what's the thought there?
I mean, ideally it's at least once a month. I started to work in the cadence because I got away from this. Every time the company gets a new client, the whole family, like, it's on the company, because I want them to begin to associate, and celebrate that win. With us as a whole. And, it's funny because I'll step out of the office, and Natalie, after we have dinner, because, on the new client, she would go, "Hey, Dad, you get a new client? Yeah. You get a new client?" Like, so she's looking forward to these dinners. But I want to be able to create some trigger point like that for us, or I know, like, put it in your calendar, date night. Yeah. But for us now, we're finally getting to the age with the kids where we could probably leave them alone for a couple hours. I mean, at nighttime, it's a little scarier for them. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's kind of what's been holding things up, is like the grandparents were the ones that would watch, and now they're getting a little too old to come and do that. They'll have to sleep over and stuff. But yeah, we haven't found a babysitter yet that wouldn't be on their phones the entire time, or secretly inviting their boyfriend over or something. Yeah. Where it's hard. We haven't really looked for someone yet.
Yep. Trust is an issue. Trust is an issue. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those that I just thought about it as, obviously it makes it a little bit more expensive, but, bringing the babysitter with, or one of the grandparents with, and like, you get to sit at the table over there with the grandkids while my wife and I are over here having a date. I don't know why I've never thought about that before, besides the fact that it's like, well, that's 4 extra mouths to feed when I'm out to eat, which is not cheap. But but if it makes the date happen, maybe I should start doing that. I don't know, because I'm always trying to think of ways to. We've got this one girl at church that really wants to babysit more and do that sort of thing. So it's like, man, I should really invite her over more. But again, I have a hard time trusting people, period. So it's like, until I really know you, I really struggle trusting, Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That might be a way for me to help myself out as well. So. Yeah.
I think as they're getting older, hopefully we won't need babysitters, but still finding that responsible, teenager. A responsible teenager. That's kind of an oxymoron in many cases. So that's very difficult to pull off. Yeah, especially in today's day and age, it seems. So, but at some point we have to figure something out on it. But I don't know. We had an au pair for a while, which was amazing. Especially with my wife working full time and me doing business, and it was tough. But the au pair was great. I felt like it was having a teenager. I guess she was 19 when we first got her. Our second au pair, she was 19. So, having a teenager in the house, and it's kind of crazy to manage. But, there are some who are still responsible, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. How does that work? Are they just like there for the summer and then they have to go back? Are they stateside?
No, it's a 1-year contract. Okay. So they're living in your house with you for a year. Then you can extend for up to 1 more year. So, they get a small stipend paid by us, like their paycheck, and then the room and board is included. So we have to have a room in the house for them, and then they, make all their food for them and all that stuff, or at least have food in the house for them. So
are they typically, like overseas?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So it's like a foreign exchange program, similar to like students. So, they come from another country. This one, she was from Brazil, but she's here in America now. She's stuck around. She's getting married in a couple weeks. Okay. So that's kind of cool. Our first au pair was from Colombia. She did the same thing. She stuck around. She continued on her au pair world, but ended up getting married and staying here. Wow. So I looked at my wife. I said, how cool is that? Like, we have two girls that have come and stayed with us for a while, and now they've realized, this is the world I want to live in here, is in the U.S. I don't want to go back. And we've helped them jumpstart an entirely new life that they would have never had an experience to do without hanging out with us. So cool. It was kind of a cool way to look at it. But But yeah, I highly recommend anybody listening that, especially if both spouses work, like an au pair is a game changer for sure, and happy to chat about that with anybody. But that was a game changer. But church might be one of those spots for you to find one of those young ladies that are responsible, that want to earn a little bit more money and do all of that. So, but like you said, your oldest is getting to that point, just about on that responsibility curve. We've got a 2-year-old, so our 10-year-old is not quite ready to be hanging out with a 2-year-old for that long. While I'm recording a podcast, he does great, but while I'm at dinner, probably not. So.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So where's if you were to be talking to somebody right now, who is your target audience for what you do? Like if you were to say, hey, give yourself a small commercial real quick, like who's the person hearing this that would be the most beneficial for you and your company, or they would find the most benefit from your company, I should say?
Yeah, thanks for that, brother. It's typically a successful business owner, and what I mean by that, they're above $1 million at least. They have a marketing budget, or they could carve out a marketing budget. So they have success, they run their business, but they haven't really devoted time to developing a brand for themselves, and a mission, sort of to point people towards. So they have a business, but they'll benefit if people get to know and love who they are as an owner, as a founder. So those are our typical go-tos. Like, for example, we have a guy who's had a bespoke tailor company for a decade. He's very successful. He is a brand consultant, so like image consultant type of guy, but he doesn't know how to develop, or has no desire to, develop his own brand. Like he does it for others. He's like, you tell me, you're the image expert for me when it comes to personal branding. So we've launched his podcast, we've launched his show, his whole thing, going through our process and framework. So it's typically easy for those. We have clients that are below that, say, 6 figures. It's challenging for them because they want to do all the things still, because budget restraints. But they need our framework to help them get off the ground. So we do have those type of clients, and they're typically, with us for, 3, 6, 12 months. And they're like, hey, I gotta bring this all in house, but the ones who really need us the most already have teams, but they don't have a team that does what we do and what we do best. So yeah. And lately it has been very GoBundance type of avatars, white Christian middle-aged men who have families. Like that's a very specific GoBundance avatar, because we worked with GoBundance when we produced their show, and Jamie, heavily involved. We knew that was the avatar. I was like, oh yeah, that's my avatar. We got the same avatar. Yeah.
Very good. So growth, though, like if are you going to stick to? I mean, the avatar is the avatar, right? Anything can happen outside of the avatar, right? So that's just the one person you're kind of quote unquote speaking to. But how are you planning to grow that aperture, or are you planning to grow that aperture at all to target different audiences in different ways, and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we're very focused on who we serve and who we serve best. Okay.
Which I think is an important thing for people to hear. And part of the reason I ask that is because too many people chase every audience member instead of specific audience members.
Yeah, we're very, very focused and big proponents of niche, micro niching. So yeah, it's funny because the micro niche at some point was very clear as far as like what I just stated. Middle-aged dudes with families who are real estate guys and Christians. Like boom, like that's all the things that completely line up. But of course, like I said, there's the bespoke tailor. He's Jewish, and he's not in GoBundance. so it's like there are outliers for sure. We have clients like in VaynerMedia, a woman, middle-aged woman who's adopting kids, and like outside of our typical, but we know who we serve. We're very focused on growing that. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't need much of that. 50 clients would be a game changer and change the look of the company. 100 would be, forget it. Like, I don't even know. We'd have a different conversation. But it's It's focus. Yeah.
That's, I try to encourage people to look at that all the time. It's like, who is your actual target audience? I struggle sometimes finding my own, right? In some cases, right? Because I love to talk about so many different things and look at so many different areas, blah, blah, blah. So it's hard to really narrow it in, but you have to, right? And, we talk about the same thing in real estate, like niches make riches, like get really good at one thing. If it's apartment buildings, it's apartment buildings. If it's short-term rentals, it's short-term rentals. If it's whatever, it's whatever. Sure, some things may come here and there, but the same thing with your market audience. Like, you need to know who it is you're talking to, and build your avatar and chase your avatar. And your avatar can't be adults 25 to 50.
Yeah.
No, like, what are we doing? You have to know who you're talking to, because I could ugh.
It gets hard when you're for, I love the saying, if you're for everyone, then you're for no one.
Yeah.
And I, for sure, lived in that world for a long time. But here's what happens when you do have that clarity, is when you're speaking to your avatar, your prospect, you like, boom, this is an instant yes in my head. You just get to know each other, versus like everybody being a yes. And then now all of a sudden you're like, it's like, oh man, this is getting really confusing. Like, because now I know who, and then as soon as I'm talking to someone that isn't that, then I'm like, hey, I can help you in other ways. I can, make a referral, but you're not our typical client, type. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, Erik, is there anything else that you definitely wanted to chat about while on here? Anything that we missed? Anything that popped up in your brain as we were talking about you wanted to hit on?
No. I mean, I appreciate this time together. Always appreciate our conversations. Always enlightening. But the thing that I wanted to share with your audience, if they don't already know, is the book and spoiler alert, I sent you one. So
yes,
you'll be getting one in the mail. But yeah, Be Your Brand to Glorify God is really where it's at. It's really Christian activation, Christian entrepreneur activation, really. Stating how it's really on us, because there's so much noise, dude. There's so much from the opposition. We need to be the antidote to that. And this book really just drives home a lot of sort of biblical principles and stories of how Jesus was like the ultimate personal brand. Like if we're Paul or if we're Joseph, like there's going to be certain periods in time where we kind of see ourselves in those light and those stories. But Be Your Brand. Well, actually, beyourbrandnow.com is the website we created for it. So there's a downloadable free get to know your roots, your core values exercise in there that I would recommend for your audience.
Awesome. So beyourbrandnow.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So go to beyourbrandnow.com. Be your brand to glorify God. Is that what you said it was called?
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm definitely going to share it with my wife as well, as she's trying to figure out where she wants to go in this business or mom or whatever world she's going to be starting in now.
That's exciting.
So I'm looking forward to going over that and have the conversation about the book with her. So thank you, Erik, so much for jumping on. It was great. And again, for those of you who, your podcast, what's your podcast name? So people can go and find it over there too.
Yeah, just find me, Erik Cabral, on YouTube, or Erik E. Cabral. So yeah, I'm all over YouTube. But yeah, if you subscribe to the show, that'd be great. I'm just trying to grow that slowly but surely. Been doing it for others. I've always been the cobbler's kids who have no shoes. But now we're finally, I'm like, okay, we got to grow and build this on our stuff too. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. Thank you for being on, and your stuff's getting a lot of visibility, which is great. So yeah,
awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, definitely go like and subscribe over on Erik's channel as well. Like and subscribe here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you again, Erik. Besides those, is there any contact information you want to send out to anybody on the podcast, or the website and YouTube is good?
Yeah, they can go download that free stuff, exercise, know your roots. Yeah, beyourbrandnow.com.
Beyourbrandnow.com. Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Erik, again. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Reach out to Erik. Obviously, passionate about what he does. He's great at what he does. If you go check out his stuff, you'll know that he's great at what he does, and he'll do the same thing for you guys. So see everybody on the next show, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to the BizDad Podcast. We hope you found some value in your time here with us, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and share so you and your friends won't miss our upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Rumble, where we continue these discussions and share more valuable content. Be the dad you know you need to be and run your business in a way you're proud to share with your kids. Keep crushing it.